C'était un jour en 2011, quand je promenais la rue à Midtown Manhattan, et j'ai aperçu, remarqué quelque chose. J'ai remarqué les voitures noires dans la rue, garées sur la rue. Et j'ai aussi remarqué des chauffeurs qui attendaient à côté de leur voiture. Et j'ai aussi remarqué les hommes d'affaires qui sont vêtus d'un costume, qui sortent d'un édifice qui s'appelle le Time Warner Building à Midtown Manhattan. Et les hommes ont entré dans la voiture et les chauffeurs ont conduit. Et j'étais très intriguée parce que je me demandais qui sont ces hommes qui ont des chauffeurs et quelle est la relation entre les hommes riches et les chauffeurs. Parce que quelques chauffeurs, ils semblaient africains comme moi, ils semblaient comme les immigrants africains. Donc je me demandais qu'est-ce qui passait dans la voiture. Et parce que dans ce temps, c'est dans la récession. J'ai demandé comment est-ce que la récession a touché cet homme, l'homme riche et son chauffeur.
C'était en pleine récession 2008, c'est
oui,
ça?
Oui, mais parce que j'ai perdu mon travail pendant la récession. J'ai perdu mon travail en décembre 2009. Et ce jour, c'est dans le printemps de 2011. Okay. Donc, je n'ai pas gagné un nouveau travail. Donc, j'étais très affectée par la récession. Donc, quand j'ai remarqué les hommes d'affaires et les chauffeurs, j'ai pensé, qu'est-ce qui passait pendant la récession dans la vie de ces hommes qui sont très différents, parce qu'ils viennent de deux mondes très différents. So, ça, c'est l'inspiration de
C'est de là qu'est parti le livre.
Oui, j'ai commencé à écrire en 2011.
D'accord, d'accord.
Très difficile parce que aux États-Unis, peut-être dans d'autres pays, tu dois être un agent pour publier avec les grands éditeurs, les big publishers.
Yes.
Vous devez être un agent. Donc j'ai écrit à hundreds, beaucoup d'agents autour de l'États-Unis. Et j'ai envoyé les
lettres.
Oui, les lettres et les early drafts, les premiers drafts de cette histoire. Et j'ai eu beaucoup de réjections.
Ah, d'accord.
J'ai eu beaucoup de réjections. Mais je n'ai pas quitté. J'ai continué à envoyer des lettres. Mon agent, Suzanne Golombe, je l'ai écrit en octobre 2011. Ce n'est pas, wasn't until 2011 quand elle a dit ok, je vais tenir comme mon cliente.
D'accord.
Oui, so j'ai fait jusqu'à 3 ans pour
trouver un éditeur.
Oui. Non, un agent.
Un agent littéraire.
Oui, un agent littéraire. J'ai continué, j'ai réécrit. Parce que quand les gens rejettent, ce n'est pas juste parce qu'il est mauvais, ou il dit, oh, vous n'avez pas de talent. C'est parce que le livre a beaucoup de potentiel et tu dois continuer à écrire. Et ça, c'est ce que j'ai fait. J'ai réécrit l'histoire.
Vous aviez des gens qui vous donnaient des conseils?
Non. few years later, ben, quand j'ai commencé, c'est juste moi, j'ai écrit et quand les gens, il y a des gens qui m'ont dit, oh, ça c'est que je n'aime pas, ça c'est que tu dois améliorer. Il y a des gens, il y a des gens qui non, je n'aime pas, c'est tout. Donc je n'ai pas quitté, j'ai continué à écrire. Et même si mon agence est en Colombe, elle a lu la première fois, elle a dit, ça c'est une formidable histoire, mais il y a beaucoup il y a beaucoup de potentiel que vous devez bring out. Donc j'ai retourné à écrire aussi, à réécrire.
Donc c'est un long processus de travail.
Oui, parce que ça c'est la vie d'un écrivain. C'est une vie de... parce qu'un seul mot que changer une histoire, un seul mot, une seule phrase, tu dois écrire les mots, écrire les phrases, écrire les paragraphes, les chapitres, tu dois écrire. Et pour moi, j'ai... les personnages dans ce roman, j'ai étudié, j'ai appris, quand j'ai écrit, j'ai appris, et j'ai écrit, j'ai appris les personnages nains, les gens de Cindy et de Clark, j'ai écrit, j'ai appris chaque fois que j'ai écrit. Donc
c'est un peu comme si vous échangez avec les personnages, ils vous apportent aussi des idées.
Oui. C'est un long process. Ce n'est pas en anglais, il dit, it's not a sprint, c'est un marathon. C'est un marathon. Tu dois appliquer, apply yourself to improve, pour améliorer, to keep on getting better. C'est ça que j'ai fait. Je n'ai pas su. Non, parce que tu ne pourrais passer, oh, ça c'est merveilleux. Mais quand mon agent m'a donné l'opportunité pour être son cliente, elle a dit, okay, tu dois écrire aussi une fois encore. Donc j'ai écrit et elle a dit, je crois que ça c'est formidable. Oui, quand elle a dit ça, parce que je ne peux pas dire ça, mais quand mon agent, parce qu'elle est très, très intelligente, elle sait, comment la littérature, what it should be like. Donc quand elle a lu, parce que après que j'ai écrit centaines de fois, donc elle a dit, oui, ça c'est formidable. Ça, c'est ça que c'est le temps que j'ai dit, ok. Ben après ça, quand elle a vendu à mon public américaine, Random House, j'ai réécrit. Oui, c'est
un long processus.
Très long processus. Ce n'est pas une fois, j'ai réécrit 10 fois, 20 fois. Oui, la vie d'un écrivain, c'est beaucoup de répétitions.
Tout à fait. Un travail en permanence.
Oui.
Et là, vous avez décidé d'être écrivain à plein temps ou vous, de temps en temps,
Non, parce que je n'ai pas une rêve de la vie écrivain. J'aime écrire. Donc, j'écris parce que j'aime écrire. Mon rêve était pour servir une professeure à l'université. Tout le temps, j'ai écrit parce que l'écrit, j'aime l'écrire.
D'accord.
Je n'ai pas écrit parce que j'ai croyé, oh, un jour je vais vendre mon livre à Random House. Non, j'écris parce que j'aime. Et après que j'ai écrit pour... Quand mon agent a vendu mon livre, j'ai écrit pour 12 ans. J'ai écrit pour 12 ans. Donc, ce n'est pas... I started for the love of writing. C'est après plusieurs années que je me dis, oh, peut-être que je peux publier.
Tout à fait.
And when I came to America, I was very homesick because I was happy in Limbé. So I wasn't like somebody who wanted to leave and come to America. I came because I had an opportunity to go to college here, but it wasn't like, oh, I need to get out of here. Je lis a lot quand j'étais, je lisais a lot. Je lisais beaucoup quand j'étais une femme parce que j'ai habité avec mon tante dans la ville de Kumba et mon tante, elle a une maison qui a beaucoup de livres.
Ok.
Et c'est avec ma tante, chez ma tante, que j'ai lu Shakespeare et Dickens, j'ai découvert Ngugi wa Thiong'o, Chinua Achebe. J'ai passé beaucoup de temps lisant. Oui. Et je n'étais pas une enfant qui était très outgoing, j'étais très timide. Donc les livres, c'est mon confort. J'ai passé, comme beaucoup des écrivains. Quand j'ai arrivé aux États-Unis, et après l'université, j'ai découvert Toni Morrison. C'est la première, Toni Morrison, elle a un livre qui s'appelle Song of Solomon. Et j'ai découvert Song of Solomon. Et après que j'ai mon lecture de ce roman incroyable, quand j'ai dit, je vais commencer à écrire. Mais quand j'ai commencé à écrire, c'est seulement parce que I loved that book so much that I just wanted to write. It was how you read something and then you are like, wow, like I just want to write.
Inspiring.
Yes, it was that inspiring. But when I was growing up in Cameroon, maybe some people, when we were children in Cameroon, they thought about being writers, but to me, writers were like, I didn't meet anybody who wrote, I didn't know anybody who wrote. I don't think I even know anybody who worked in a newspaper.
Okay.
Books were very far away. You saw the books, but you never saw the people behind the books. Yeah. So I never thought about the people behind the books. I didn't even think that these people existed. It was all like, all you see is a book. Right?
And even never dreamed of
No, never. I didn't even, I never thought, oh, Ngugi wa Thiong'o is a writer. No, I didn't even think. I just said, Ngugi wa Thiong'o is a man who lives in Kenya. I never thought I love this stuff, but it never occurred to me that these are people. Gender and Neni were inspired by people I know, by other Cameroonians. Parce que l'histoire de Gender Neni, c'est l'histoire que j'ai rencontré beaucoup d'immigrants qui ont rencontré moi ces histoires. Et ces histoires m'ont inspiré. Donc, while they're fictional characters, they're based on real people. And I like to think that Gender and Neni, they're very Cameroonian to me. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that Cameroonians are such wonderful, perfect people, but I know many good Cameroonian people who are nice and they are also flawed, they're not perfect. I mean, I'm glad you think that they're good people, because some people might think that oh God, they're so, Neni's judgmental and Gender, some people can think Gender is weak. But they were inspired by people that I've met. Yes, people that I've met. Very much people from Limbé and people that I've met, not only Cameroonian, but other Africans and other immigrants. Okay. So, and I think that they're also very flawed. They have their virtues, but they're also flawed.
Yes.
And I think in that way, it's a very universal story, because I just had an interview with somebody who is Irish, and he said, this is Irish story. this is
immigrant Irish people in America.
Irish, well, he used to live in America, now he lives in France, but he's from Ireland. And he said, this is I feel like I'm reading like an Irish story, but just African people, like in an Irish story. Yes. So I think that search for leaving your home, going somewhere else. Like it connects all of us immigrants. Like in that way, this is a very, while it's an American story, because I think this is a story about America. It's also a story about like immigrants and like leaving home, and because there's so much that you lose when you leave your home, right? Even if you're going after a dream, even though there's something that you want, there's to leave your home, the place where you were born, the place where you're comfortable. That's a big thing to give up.
The American dream is playing a particular role.
Yes,
in that story.
It is very, it's very alluring. American dream wants you, you know, and we buy into it. We buy into it. We like, you see Jende and Nani, when they're in Cameroon, they dream of coming to America and this life and what all the things we saw on TV. We were watching The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and The Cosby Show, and we saw this wonderful place with this wonderful lifestyle, and it's something that we want. We want a better life, you know. The chance of them having a better life in Cameroon is not that high. Yes. While his life is not miserable in Cameroon, he had an okay life. He was poor, but he was happy enough. But the chance of him moving out of poverty in Cameroon,
to follow the
dream. It's an opportunity. Yes. Opportunity. Opportunity is not there in Cameroon very much. Opportunity is here in America a lot more, and that's what we come for. Yeah. Well, I think the one thing that interested me was how similar we are, even while on the surface we're so different. I think that while writing this book, because it was an education for me also, I didn't come to this knowing, right? Part of writing is, you know, learning. You write and you're learning about people and about the world. I mean, writing this book made me a much more empathetic person, because I had to empathize with people who do things that I wouldn't agree with. But I think that this was very much about saying gender and Clark, they're so different, right? Working class, African immigrant, rich white man who works on Wall Street, but they have so much in common. They're both fathers, they both want the best for their children. You know, we saw Clark struggling with his job, gender struggling with his job. Like, on the surface, we look so different, and yet a lot of us want the same kind of things. Yes. So it wasn't so much like, oh, look at how different we are. I think, and there's that also, but there's also, you know, there's so much that connects us. And even with Cindy and Nenny, right? You know, the rich white woman and this working class African immigrant, but they both have dreams, right? Yeah. They both have marriages where, you know, they are the woman in the marriage, and you see how they pay the price, you know, to have this marriage.
Yes, right.
I never thought about qualifying it. I mean, I think that I look at language as music, you know. Yeah. I think, you know, I mean, I love many different kinds of styles, but I think of it as music, and I think, you know, like, say, you know, I don't know, like, say, Jumpa Lahiri, who I like, you know, like she, you know, like when I read her, it's like a string quartet. It's like, it's like so beautiful and so graceful. Yeah. And, you know, and then Juno Diaz is like rap, like, you know. So it's, I think when I read that, I just like hear like the music. And I think this book, because, you know, my earlier writing was more different kind of style, but I think this particular one, I think is more like a solo violinist. You know, it's like, you know, like a solo band, because it's the prose is pretty spare. Yeah. It's not very elaborate. I think it gets that way when it needs to be, but I think it's more. So I think it's more like a more solo, peaceful, just melodious. Nice, yes. I mean, it's, well, I mean, African writers, I mean, because I grew up on Chinua Achebe and Ngugi wa Thiong'o, they obviously, I also read many other. When I was growing up, we had the African writer series, and I actually did not read the Cameroonian Francophone writers like Ferdinand Oyono or Mongo Petit. I never read them because it was only in French. I didn't see any translation of their work in English. So when I was growing up, I only read like Kenjo Jumba, which is from Northwest, he wrote in English. Bella Sone de Poko, he also wrote in English. But I don't think I ever read any of the Cameroonian francophone writers.
Because it's not translated.
Yeah, I don't. And I was like, but I read L'Enfant Noir by Camara Lai, and it was in English. So I'm not sure. Maybe I just didn't come across them. But I mean, when I first came to America, I read mostly African writers because I think I was just homesick and wanted to read books like people who look like me. But these days, I read everything. I mean, right now I'm reading a thriller.
Yeah. And this for this book, do you intend to promote it in Cameroon?
Would you like me to?
No.
Are you inviting me to Cameroon? I actually had an invitation from the Ministry of Culture to come in June for the festival. I think there was a festival in June, but I couldn't make it. So I mean, I'd love to go to Cameroon. I mean, maybe I'll be invited to come next year. I'll think about it if I'm invited. Yeah, I'd love to come back to Cameroon. I think, like people make it sound as if, Cameroonians don't read. We Cameroonians, we read, Maybe there aren't millions of us Cameroonians who read, but I think that I grew up, reading in Cameroon, and I think that, there's a healthy love of literature in Cameroon.
Yeah, that sounds good. But Imbolo, are you a full-time writer?
Well, right now I am. Maybe I want to be a dancer after all this. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's not really a right answer because I'm not writing right now.
Yes,
but yes,
just all
but for the past couple of years, yes, because writing and rewriting this book just pretty much took up all my time. Yes, it's very, 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 very involved process. I fell into writing and then I lost my job and then I took my writing seriously. But for people who walk out, let me say, I want to be a writer, you just write, Like there is no other way. You apply yourself to it. I mean, I was writing for 12 years before I published one thing. My short story that came out in the 3-penny review, I've been writing that story for like 7 years. That little short story. Oh. Yes, I believe in excellence. It's not about rushing and getting anything out there. It's about applying yourself and writing and rewriting and rewriting. Even me now, that I write stuff and I'm like, this is great. I mean, thank God I have people now who are like, no, this is crap. So, but you really have to. And then when the time is ready, I think we are fortunate to be in a time where people want to hear African stories, African voices. Not only African, but all over. I mean, every kinds of people from every walks of life. Literature is for everybody. And I think there's an openness. So I think you write and rewrite and rewrite. And I mean, you take a class or a workshop, because it's good to have your work critiqued. Because when you write it alone, you think, this is a bomb, right? And then somebody's like, what are you talking about? So, and being open to criticism, being very open, because that is the one thing that I think helped me. I met people who were like, ripped my work apart and said no, and I said okay, I'll redo it, and it hurts to hear, that I mean back then. Now I'm very, very open. I mean, not everybody's going to love my book, and I'm very, very at peace with that because everybody has their own taste. So somebody's going to say this is not for me, but I think that people who you go to and say, you know what, tell me what you think of my work. If they say, this is not good, I don't like that, you should listen to it, and you should rewrite and work on it. And of course, you have to balance that with who you are, your style, what you're trying to say, because you don't want people to make you into something that you're not. Somebody can say, oh, write like this, don't write like this. You don't want that. So it's, apply yourself and then, get short story published, and, email, literally journals, and then, email agents and keep on trying it. I mean, it took me how many years, from the day I started writing till when my book comes out, it will be, 14 years, Wow, yeah. It's a long journey.
It's not over.
No. I would like to think that the message is however they interpret it. I think the book is open to interpretation. Some people can say this is an indictment of the American dream, or this is about how wonderful Cameroon is. Some people might interpret it that way, or how fun Africans are, or how the life of immigrants. I mean, for me, I wanted to tell stories of people like myself. Immigrants in New York, in America, immigrants in general, because I think it's, what are you living from, I don't know, Senegal, or moving to Thailand, or moving to, there's still that, there's something that happens to you when you leave your home. And I think I wanted to just show, like, this is what our life is like, the lives of people I've met, because every immigrant story is different, but I took the stories that people had told me, and that inspired me, and I said, let me put it together and share.
Okay.